Hey everybody, welcome to the Coding Zoo. If this is your first time joining, my name is Shane and this is the Coding Zoo Java playlist. In today's lesson, we are going to cover the switch statement. So in previous lessons, we learned about if and else if and if else. Today we're going to learn about using switch statements. So if this is your first time joining us and learning Java, I hope you enjoy the lesson, and definitely, feel free to ask me any questions. Leave me a message below. If you like the video, go ahead and click that subscribe button below. And at the end, if you like it, click like. That really helps us out a lot. If you are a return viewer, I just wanted to say real quickly, hey, we appreciate you checking out the lessons. That means a lot to us. I hope they're very helpful, and just wanted to thank you for that. So let's go ahead and jump right into the lesson. All right, so if you look at my desktop here, I have a class open in my Java IDE. It's called Switch Conditions. I've named the class Switch Conditions. Let's take a look at that class. All right, so in my main block of code here, I've got an example of an if-Elsif-Else block. This is something we went over in previous lessons. Just to refresh real quick, if you're not familiar with that, your if block does a comparison, and that comparison is matched. It will go to that block and run that code, and it will only run that block of code in this if-Else statement. If that isn't matched, then it would go to the next block, and if that is matched, it'll run that code. And if that's not matched, it'll go to the final else block and run that code. So that's kind of an if-Else block. If you're not familiar, I'll put a link to a video up above. Definitely go check that out. Let's jump over into what you can use for branching instead of if-else blocks, and that's a switch statement. Let's show you what a switch statement does. All right, so I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to uncomment this. Now I've created this one block of code here for us. This is how the switch block used to work. It used to only support numbers. It could not support strings. It had to be a number. This is an example of that type of block. I'm going to do that right there. Tab it out to make sure I have proper alignment. So what I have here is a switch statement, switch, open parentheses, and I'm switching on the variable my number. I have an in parentheses, and I have a open squiggly bracket, and there's my closed squiggly bracket right there. Now I have every switch statement has a case statement or multiple case statements to branch with. So right here, I'm switching on the variable my number. So I'm basically saying if my number is this case, run this block. If it's this case, run this block. Or if it's this case, run this block. Else, run the default, which is this block. So that's basically how it works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this switch statement. Again, this is the way you used to use it, and it's very similar to the current switch statement, but the difference is you only could use numbers. So I've got my number set to 3. I'm going to run it to 2. Now, if you look at my switch statement, I have switch, and I'm passing in the variable my number, and then there's a case statement. So the syntax for that is case, and then whatever number you're comparing it against, colon, and then the lines you want to execute. So I'm executing this line of code here, and this break says once you execute this block of code in the case 2, go ahead and break and don't run any of these other cases. Now, if this case statement wasn't here, it would run the block 2 and go ahead and run the other cases until it ran across a break. So right now I've got a break there. It should run the case 2 because my number is set to 2. Let's run that real quick. And there we go. I'm running this line because case 2 was met. That's what's printed right there. So you can see it went to case 2. Now let's say I change it to 3. What do you think will happen? So it's going to do a switch on 3, and it's going to run this case 3. And what else? There's no break, so it should run this case 4 and then go to the break and stop. Let's see if that works. All right, so running this line because case 3 met, and this is running because no break in case 3. So both of these lines were run. It went over into case 4 because there wasn't a break on this line right here. So let's go ahead and put a break there. What's going to happen? It should just run that line. Run it again real quick. And there we go. Just ran that one line. And of course, I could change this to 4. It's going to run 4 and break. Now, what if I don't? What if I put it to a number that is not there? What's going to happen? So let's run it. And it runs this line if no condition met. So it's running basically a default block. Now, the default is optional. You don't have to have it. It's usually good practice to have it, but you don't have to have it. All right, so that's your original switch block. It used numbers. Let's switch over to using strings. Comment that out. Let's uncomment this. Okay. All right, so I have a switch statement here. Now this switch statement has the variable, uses the variable my name, and that variable is set to Shane. So which do you think it's going to run? Is this case sensitive? Is it going to run this one? Is it going to just run the first one? What's it going to run? Let's see if it just runs the first one, or does it actually go, is it case sensitive? Does it go to this one? Let's run it. All right, running this line because case Shane met. That's this line here. Or actually, excuse me, that's this line here. So it skipped this one and it went to this Shane because strings or comparisons are, of course, case sensitive in Java. So it ran this one right here. So basically, this is an example of using a string. You can use an integer or a string. One example you might actually try. Let's try this. Instead of an if block, yeah, you could do this. Let's do true. Can you do that? Let's see. And let's see if this will work. Maybe you can't. Let's try it out. Boolean my comparison compare equals 4 is greater than 3. So I'm going to do a comparison, set a Boolean. Can I do a switch block on that Boolean? All right, so I get an error there. Cannot switch on value type Boolean. Only convertible in values, strings, or enums are permitted. So will it work on a Boolean? No, it won't work on a Boolean. If you notice a little X here, it won't compile. If you hover over that, it's going to tell you can only use strings, integers, or enums for a switch statement. Let's try that out real quick. Let's try an enum. We've done a string, we've done an integer. Let's try an enum real quick. I'm going to get rid of that variable. So let's create an enum real quick. Private enum days. Can't type today. Monday, Tuesday. Let's do uppercase. Okay, let's create a variable for it. Days. My enum compare equals days dot Monday semicolon. Now I'm going to compare on that enum, that there. I'm going to change this to Tuesday. And I'm going to change this to Monday. Now it's smart enough to recognize that I'm comparing on an enum because this type is enum. And so I don't have to type in days.Tuesday or days.Monday. I can just type in Tuesday or Monday. So let's run that real quick. Running this line because we met case Shane, which is just lowercase. So Monday was ran and the variable was, yes, set to Monday. There you go. So this is one way of branching in Java code. You can branch with if-else blocks, or you can branch with switches. Just remember, you want to follow good coding principles when you use these type of branches. For example, if there's going to be a lot of code, a lot of lines of code in this case statement here, or in this case statement here, You want to put that code in another object, or you want to put it into another method. You want to follow what's called the single responsibility principle. So your code in this method would just do the switching, and another method would run the Tuesdays logic. That's a different responsibility than the Mondays logic. So single responsibility is a principle of object-oriented programming. We're going to go deeper into that in future studies. So that's part of what's called the solid principles. We'll cover that in future lessons. But this is it for today. That's the switch statement. Very simple. It's part of learning the Java basics, just like your if-else block. Hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, again, leave me a message below. If you liked this video and want to see more, subscribe by pressing the button below. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope to see you again next time, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.